friends, hope you are fine. I'm astrologer Saroj. Do subscribe the channel and enjoy the free access to the amazing and research-based content on Vedic astrology, and share the videos as much as possible. And do subscribe the channel, hit the bell icon so that you may receive notifications to the upcoming videos and enjoy the content on Vedic astrology in order to know different things about your birth chart. So this is the Gemini Ascendant chart. Ketu is placed in the first house, and we are discussing the impact of Ketu in the first house of all the ascendants. And this is the series based on the first house impact of Ketu. So as I have said before proceeding, we must discuss the general impact of Ketu. See, Ketu and Rahu have been unanimously considered malefic planets for all the ascendants. For all the ascendants, these are malefic. So when these are malefic planets, these won't give any positive results at all. It won't give positive results to any of the lagna. It's malefic. The results will be malefic. The results will never be benefic. And it's not right to think. It's not right to say that the planet is placed in lagna, it will be benefic. No, this does not give results. I have seen many clients, I have given consultation to many clients where I have recommended remedies for Ketu placed in the first house, and the person was facing problems due to Ketu placed in the first house. So it's not that it's placed in one of the Kendra houses that it will give benefic results to the native. No, it's wrong. When I have said that the planet is malefic, Ketu is malefic for all ascendants, irrespective of what be the placement. It's malefic for all the ascendants, and its influence, malefic influence, becomes twice if it's placed in 6th house, if it's placed in 8th house, and if it's placed in 12th house. It depends, and the extent of problem that is done by Ketu, that happens, that occurs due to Ketu, that depends depending on the nature of the chart, isn't it? So we can't say that it will create equally problems to all the ascendants. No, it depends what is the nature of chart and what are the different aspects that are playing a role in the chart. So one of the most important things that need to be known about Ketu is that Ketu in the first house is that it's malefic planet. It will never give positive results. And if Ketu itself is afflicted by for example, if Ketu is afflicted by what? Nothing. In this chart of Gemini Ascendant, Ketu will not be afflicted by any planet, because all the other planets in this chart, they are benefic. So Ketu won't receive any affliction from any of the other planets in this chart. But one thing needs to be taken into consideration with respect to Gemini Ascendant. Ketu is one of the most malefic planets for Gemini Ascendant. The dangerous and the deadly problems that Ketu creates in case of Gemini Ascendant is not the extent it creates such problems in any ascendant. So one of the most malefic and the deadly planet, isn't it? One of the most important sign, the only sign where the Ketu creates deadly problems, deadly impact, irrespective of it's placed in the first house, second house, or third house, or whatsoever. It creates deadly problems in the sign of Gemini Ascendant. Only this case of Ascendant. So it's quite challengeable for this ascendant, for a Gemini Ascendant, not equally to all, but the impact is quite critical. That is not seen in the Aries Ascendant, that's not seen in the Taurus Ascendant, and that's not seen in the other ascendants. Now, as I have said that the placement of Ketu is in the Lagna, it means that it will give positive results. No, that's wrong to think. And the categories in which we analyze the impact of Ketu is, there are two categories: whether the impact of Ketu will be long-lived or whether the impact of Ketu will be short-lived. Now, if the impact of Ketu is long-lived, it its role, it creates problem to the native irrespective of its Mahadasha and irrespective of its Antardasha. It's not important for Ketu to have its time period, to have its Mahadasha, to have its Antardasha in case of long-lived impact of Ketu. So Ketu in such case, it may create a critical depression to the native, and that will depend on the strength of Mercury in this case. If the Mercury is strong, accordingly we can analyze the impact of Ketu in the Lagna in the case of Gemini Ascendant, and it will create problem to the child birth issues also, but that will depend on the strength of Venus. It will create problems in the marital life of the native. The native will face setbacks in the marital life. He'll face setbacks to the business partnerships, to foreign travel as well. But it depends on the strength of Venus in case of males, and in case of females, it depends on the strength of females and males both. I'll say. And most importantly, in case of females, it will depend on the strength of Jupiter in this case of Gemini Ascendant, whether the native will face critical marital problems and challenges in marital life. So it will depend on the strength of Jupiter in such case, and it will also depend on the strength of Saturn in case of general fortune is concerned. In case of long journeys are concerned, foreign travel is concerned, it will depend on the strength of Saturn as well. So there are multiple factors. This is the way we analyze the impact of Ketu in first house of Gemini Ascendant, and the impact will be different to each and every Gemini Ascendant, because the nature of Gemini Ascendant that varies from chart to chart. We can't say that every Gemini Ascendant will face the same problems. No, the extent of problems that will be faced, that will be different. The magnitude will be different rather. So the health issues are there, the mental disturbance is there, mental retardation is there. The native is mentally retarded. He faces strange mental retardation, and he's subject to convulsions also, isn't it? And he's subject to urine infection also. There are multiple side effects, multiple outcomes as far as medical astrology is concerned. And one of the general problems that are faced in this case are the fevers or ulcers, multiple bowels, stomach disorders. Stomach disorders, they depend on the strength of Jupiter as well, depending on the strength of Sun as well, depending on the strength of Venus as well in this case. And the native is subject to injuries and setbacks in the relationship and business partnership as well. And so far as this case is concerned, I have mentioned that it's a long-lived impact of Ketu. So it's quite difficult to control Ketu in such cases. As I have mentioned in the previous videos as well, that the impact of Ketu and depends on the strength of other planets as well. And what are such planets? I'm not going to discuss that. And it depends on the nature of the chart, because if I am generalizing things for all the ascendants, that's not the proper way to share info on Vedic astrology, because the nature of every chart is different. That's why we are seeking date of birth from the native. We are seeking accurate time birth from accurate birth details from the native. That's the reason we are seeking accurate time details, accurate birth details. So that forms the subject matter of Ketu in the Lagna, so far as long-lived impact is concerned. And it's quite challenging for the native. Maybe the native, whether it's the native is female, whether the native is male, irrespective of gender, the impact of Ketu in the first house in the Lagna, that's quite challengeable for the person, quite challengeable. And I have seen cases where the Ketu creates deadly problems, the Gemini Ascendant placed in the first house, placed in any house, and so far as this case is concerned, in the case of its placement in the first house. So this is one category. Another category is that its impact is short-lived. When its impact is short-lived, we say that it's important for Ketu to create problems to have its time period, to have its Mahadasha or to have its Antardasha. So if it, for example, there's a short-lived impact of Ketu, it won't create any problem with the native at all, isn't it? If he is not being operated under, if the time period of Ketu is not in operation in case of the ascendant, in case of the native, if the time period of Ketu, that is the time period of Antardasha, Mahadasha, that's not in operation, in such cases the native won't feel any problem at all. But when Ketu, receives its time period, isn't it? When Ketu gains its time period, when the Antardasha or Mahadasha of Ketu begins, in such cases where we say that the impact is short-lived, the impacts become visible in the life of a native, isn't it? So it will remain till the time period of Antardasha, and the impact in such cases will be pronounced in the Antardasha, in the sub period of Ketu. So the magnitude will be different in such cases. We can't say that in such cases all people will receive the same problems. No, it will depend on the strength of Ketu as well. It will depend on the factors whether Ketu is aspected by the other planets in the chart as well. This is so. Other side of the coin is that we have transit influence. For example, if Ketu, it's the birth Ketu that I am talking about, and we have another Ketu that's in the transit. If the transit Ketu is placed, for example, in the first house, it will create twice problems in this case. For example, in a chart, if a birth Ketu is placed in the first house, and by chance it coincides at this coincides and coincidence takes place, the transit Ketu also is placed in the Lagna. In such cases, the problems faced by the native, they are quite critical, they are quite pronounced. Native faces quite strange problems in his life with respect to these areas that I have mentioned. So it will depend whether the impact is from transit to transit, the impact is from transit to natal, and the impact is from natal chart to transit chart, what we call triple transit. Triple triggering influence, triple transit triggering influence is quite critical influence that is ever faced by native, and that is one of the deadly time period that is faced by native. Triple transit of a functional malefic, for example, I am talking about functional malefic or malefic planet as well. So far as Ketu is concerned, it's quite dangerous in this case. So what to do now? The influence is visible, for example, long-lived influence is visible in a chart, or the short-lived influence is visible in the chart. What is the solution? How to deal with this Ketu? See, we have said that it's impossible to remove Ketu from first house. Birth Ketu is, or natal Ketu is placed in the Lagna. You can't remove its placement. It's placed there, it will remain there, isn't it? Your chart is fixed, it's not something variable. But we are talking about the influence of Ketu. That's the main point. We have to work, we have to give remedies in order to lessen, in order to decrease and in order to decline the impact of Ketu in this chart of Gemini Ascendant. So we have to work, and as an astrologer, I give remedies to the native in order to decrease the influence of Ketu in his chart, isn't it? And it also depends on the strength of other planets in the birth chart, as I have mentioned. So what remedies to follow and what should be the proper remedies in order to remove the impact of Ketu in the first house, that remedies are different and it depends on the strength of the chart as well. So this is all about this video. To subscribe the channel, hit the bell icon in order to receive the notifications for upcoming videos, and enjoy this amazing and research based content on Vedic astrology. And I'll be with you, and I'll be there with other interesting videos and podcasts on Vedic astrology that will be different, and you will see the difference in the content that you are having access to. So this is all about this video. Share the video as much as possible and subscribe the channel, hit the bell icon again. So thank you.